Fly Fishing Insider Podcast is teamed up with Fly Fish Finder app to revolutionize your fishing adventures. Save time and unlock the ultimate experience with access to 55,000 trout streams, precise bridge data, thousands of trails, and detailed species locations. Elevate your angling with real-time maps, top camping spots, and connect with local fly shops for expert tips. This is only a little bit of what is available on the app. Discover all of it on the Fly Fish Finder app, another tool for getting better at catching fish anytime, anywhere, and for any species. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Fly Fishing Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Bacassa, as always. And this week we've got Kelly Rayom on the line, and Kelly has a brother, Mike. These two guys I started talking to about, 2 years ago, Kelly?
2 years ago,
And you were just starting the business called Backcountry Skins, and that's Backcountry Skins with a Z. So go to backcountryskins.com. These guys started creating, I don't know what you would call them, like hip-high wader socks, I guess is the best way I would describe it as a rudimentary, but they're awesome. And the thing that I loved about it at the time, and I was thinking, man, this is a game changer, is it's like a much less expensive way to go about waders. It's super light. And at the time, I was doing a lot of fishing in the backcountry and fishing for a lot of bulls up in Idaho. Meanwhile, Kelly and I were here beating it up on the phone, talking about all the backcountry that he's been doing. So, Kelly, you're up in Calgary, Bow River area of Canada. You've been fly fishing for 12 years. You started out in Ontario fishing bass. You made the trip. We were talking about that and how you come from the east and go to the west and see the mountain. It's just this like awe-inspiring moment. And you fell in love. And you and your brother Mike started doing all kinds of backcountry. And when I talk about all kinds of backcountry guys, I mean, these guys were literally, we have no idea where we're going. We're just going to drop a pin and we're going to hike out there. We're going to see what we can find. But along the way, in the past how many years you've been fishing, you've really gotten a liking for cutthroat, bull trout, and brookies in the backcountry. And so for today's show, we're going to talk about, backcountry fly fishing in the Western Rockies for those cutthroat bulls and brooks. But then at the end of the show, we're going to wrap up with a little bit of extra advice from Kelly, because Kelly, for the business, Backcountry Skins, you guys have not only had to continue fishing, which you love, but you also had to do a lot of film to just get the word out about things. And so you've really gotten a liking to filming, but retaining your fishing. And I know that's super hard because I do that kind of stuff. And frankly, I want to throw my camera in the trunk and leave and go fish. I could care less about the photography while I'm fishing. But then when you get the fish or you have the moment, you're like, man, I wish I had my camera. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and give you guys a handful of tips. So Kelly, again, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate finally getting together.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how you guys have grown, because I know you started out with the Backcountry Skins legging pants kind of things, but man, you guys got packs, you got shirts, et cetera now. So just dive right in there and give us a little background.
Yeah, man, it's grown like really quick. We've only been in for about 2 years now, so it just keeps growing. It's the whole concept is very unique to the game, I feel, and no one else is really doing it. I guess just a lot of people, wet wading is becoming more popular. I feel, and it's just an affordable way for like a seasonal angler to, maybe last the whole season just wet wading, being protected and having durable gear out in the wild. And it's, you can move better and mobility and everything like that.
Yeah.
So people are loving the concept, the way we're marketing it. It's just the whole package is, it's crazy how much it's grown. It's exciting stuff for sure.
The thing that I loved about it when I first heard on it was the cost is significantly less.
Yeah.
So I really looked at it as an investment in two ways. One, I'm investing in this new product of the skins, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can reduce my cost. I can reduce my weight. I can get into the backcountry. And in the backcountry, you're always climbing over logs and rocks and, going through shrubbery, and you rip your waders or ding them or whatever. And it was like, well, if I did that to my skins, I could afford to buy another pair.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not doing that to my $600 pair of waders or whatever it is. And then I'm out for the rest of the year. I still have my waders in the back for all winter long and
Yeah.
fall when it's too cold. But man, for me, it was like on target. That is exactly what I was looking to get into. So I'm really stoked, as I said, to see you guys take off. It's always awesome to see young entrepreneurs go crazy, especially in something like this where they're coming. I think you nailed it with something really unique. You guys have some really unique stuff. So it's super cool.
Yeah, man, it's really unique to the game. So like I said, just people, I have a pair of waders, obviously, but like they obviously expensive year in, year out. So it's nice to, I don't know. Waders are just, they're bulky and they're in the backcountry and stuff like that. So it's just nice to be able to move and, run with it with a pair of skins for $150. And if you poke a hole in them, it's wet wading, so you're good. You know what I mean?
You're really good. In fact, yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool. But you guys have socks, like regular socks, but you have neoprene socks. You have a really sweet waterproof backpack. T-shirts, neck gaiters, all kinds of stuff that you're growing on. And it seems like you're adding product here and there as soon as you start to come up with ideas. So,
yeah, it's all about just growing the brand and building the store with the unique products that help people move, that are very versatile to the game and unique, very bold the way we market. And like with the bags and stuff like that, giving fly fishing a little bit of spice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Kind of like giving a little, like a unique spice. And it's crazy what we tailor to, actually. Like we kind of tailor to like the hardcore anglers, like the hardcore anglers that want to move and want to pack in and like alpine.
Yep.
In the alpine and stuff like that. And we also tailor to, guys, the part-time angler who only wants to, spend $150 on skins.
Yeah.
Seasonal for like from what? I don't know, May till September. And with a pair of skins, either rolling them on in their bag or, rolling them on their legs, packing them in. You're going to be warm in the morning because there's like a lot of, there's not much humidity out west out here. So it's always cold even all summer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the water's always cold. You know that in Utah as well. So it's
I could think about it last year on the Smith River. We did a trip. It's a permanent river, and you go for a handful of nights, and like not having to wear your waders in the sunny days, but having something that you could wear to wade in, and in the rain, etc. But you didn't have to pack this huge thing of waders, etc. So yeah, really cool, man. I'm stoked for you. So hey guys, do me a favor, go check out Kelly and Mike on backcountryskins.com. That's backcountryskins with a Z.com. You guys can really check out their stuff, get all the details. We're not going to talk about that today, but what we are going to talk about is some good old backcountry fishing. So dive in there, man. I know you're in Calgary. You said, hey, look, Christian, Bow River's right down the road. It's a sick waterway. You should come check it out, etc. And then you went, but I don't really fish that, man. I go up into the backcountry. So tell us about the backcountry, because that's where my love is too.
Yeah, the Bow River runs through Calgary, which is a world-renowned river. And it's right in my backyard. And Mike and I, it's beautiful. Like lots of people, great brown trout fishing and rainbow trout fishing, but it's never really been mine and Mike's jam, which is my brother. And it's never been our jam. We've always kind of just dropped pins in the backcountry and like the interior of BC, British Columbia. And we just kind of, there's some like, you can read up on stuff and drop pins and like stocking programs and stuff like that. And you can, really try to get lost and immerse yourself in nature, which is beautiful with the crystal blue waters. You can see the fish, you know what I mean, down at the bottom of the lake when you're fishing, and just stacks of them, and you're the only one out there.
You're kind of looking around going, where is everybody else? Like, is this real? Yeah. So do you do a lot of still water fishing for them, and are you fishing, a lot of the inlets and outlets of those as well?
Yeah. Like a lot of the inlets and outlets are great places to target, obviously, where there's always food coming into the lake. Still water fishing, 100%. Like that's more of what we do now, actually, more than anything. Just because the fish are always there. Rivers can take a lot of work. Rivers can take a lot of work, deciphering them and trying to find out where fish are and where they migrate, or where they are in the river. So
because they go on a run, and you're like, Yeah, this
Yeah,
week they were here, but next week they could either still be there or they could be a mile further upriver or a couple of miles.
exactly.
It's a
Yeah,
more of a game in that scenario of like there's some luck involved and there's some a lot of hiking, a lot of hiking involved.
a lot of hiking
Uh,
involved in work. Yeah, as you get older, you just kind of want to find kind of, well, I guess going deep in the backcountry can be a lot of work as well. But a river, can be a lot of, trying to find where they are, and they might not be there. But in a lake, they're going to be in there. You know what I mean?
yeah,
They're
yeah. It's like
they're landlocked in there, and like I always say, I always joke about it. Like we'll go to some of these alpine lakes and rivers in the interior BC and Alberta, and like you just go in and mess yourself into the wilderness, either with like paddle boarding or whatever to go deep, or like hiking your paddle boards in and whatnot. And
yeah,
then you go back to work the next day and you just like wake up and you're just like, was that real, or
yeah.
was I in a portrait, like was I like in some like crazy dream? It feels like almost like completely two different worlds, you know what I
Right.
mean? And then
Yeah.
right when after even tired after a hike or whatever, you're just like so beat, and then you like get home and you're like, I can't wait. You wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, I can't wait to go back out there and do it again. You
Yeah,
know what
this
I
is
mean?
gonna be
So
sick. This hey, I dropped
yeah,
some pins. We're ready for next week, you know.
yeah. Where are we
Yeah.
going next, guys? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's totally killer. That's totally killer.
yeah.
When you guys are fishing the lakes, are you fishing a lot of sink tip lines or full sink lines?
Yeah, we're actually we actually with the lakes, you can do like it depends what you're going for. When we usually go to the lakes, we usually do brook trout or cutthroat trout for a lot of the alpine lakes.
Okay.
So balanced leeches is like my favorite go-to
Yep.
to go with. Tied with like a tungsten bead to get it down kind of deep quicker, so you
Hmm.
can get more casts in and stuff like that. So like balanced leeches, boatmans, like pheasant tails can work too. Can't go wrong with a squirmy worm as well.
Right, right.
So
Leeches, things like that. You were saying.
leeches are the most popular, I find, with the tungsten head bead, like a red tungsten head bead, like balanced or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I feel that balanced leeches are definitely my go-to.
Now, do
Yeah.
you you're fishing a lake, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Fortunately, from my experience, a lot of the backcountry lakes that I fish are a little deeper on the edge, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to do a ton of casting, but every time you go, you're always like, man, I wish I could just cast a little bit further. So I'm curious, do you do one of these two things, or maybe none of them? But
Yeah.
we've adopted some styles where we fish heavier rods, like an 8 weight,
Hmm.
but we use a really weight forward line on them, heavy grain
Interesting.
weight forward line, so that they cast really far.
Yeah.
The other one is we've got guys that use trout based, 5 weight, 4 weight spay rods or
Yeah.
Skagit rods. Are you
Interesting.
guys doing that at all, or are you using more traditional styles in those natures?
Yeah, it depends. Like we used to do the off the banks just with like roll casting and stuff like that. But now with these new pack rafts coming out, it's like a whole different
Mm,
game that's opened up for us for these alpine places. Like pack rafts, you can pack them in your bag and you blow them up right there and you can get in the river. So our biggest thing now is we use pack rafts to get in. And another thing, it's good that you said that actually, is where rocks come in, like off a, maybe a rock slide or something like
yeah,
that, into the lake where there's a lot of amount or like a lot of structure. That is a huge place
yep,
where to target, cutthroat trout or brook. That's always where they're going to be for sure.
yep,
But the if you can, carry in a pack raft and you got a lot of, energy, I definitely recommend taking, maybe looking to that route now, because
yeah,
it makes you so versatile in the water and do things that you could never do. If you go hike around a whole alpine lake, you're dead for the day. But if you're just floating around, you can float around up there for a couple days. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
camp and stuff like that. So those are some of the tips, or some of the ways we do it, anyways.
Yeah.
To
What kind of
target
pack rafts are you guys using? I use like they call it an alpaca pack raft. It's
alpaca. I think those ones are good too. You can do you got to do your research for your size, the size of person you are, right?
yeah.
Because you're gonna also have a lot of gear on your pack raft. I have a Kokopelli
Okay.
pack raft, but there's a lot of, you got to have a good quality one too, because you don't want to spring a leak as well. Um,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So you don't want to like spring a leak. That would suck in the
Yeah,
backcountry.
it
So
does.
you got to make sure you have like patch kits, like patch kits, and you got to have all the gear too. Like I always have one of those in reaches. There's lots of stuff that you really got to make sure you have a checklist or to be out
Yeah.
there floating around deep in the back Canadian Alpine for sure. But
Yeah. Yeah.
even I even hiked up a paddleboard last year, me and my brother and all of us. But now these pack rafts, those were heavy, but now we're just like, this is like nothing now,
Oh
right?
yeah, right. After hauling a
Yeah,
paddleboard, one of those pack rafts feels like air in
it
comparison.
feels like nothing. It's crazy how durable they are as well, and how easy they are to blow up. You need obviously a pretty big pack to bring everything. You bring jet boils and food. And you got to pack light. The
Yeah.
lighter the better. But
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely
I,
doable.
and I want to make the difference too, because some people hear pack raft and they think personal pontoon, or they think what's Watermaster has an awesome boat. But
Yeah,
that's a boat. That's a boat.
that's a full bow, man. Like
yeah, man, it's
water-
super heavy. Like you could do class 3 water in it. I mean, like it's legit. Now a pack raft, you can do a lot of that stuff in, but it feels like a garbage bag material in comparison to that heavy PU like raft material. I mean, it's like it's a lot thinner. And that maybe garbage bag is overextending there, but it's a lot thinner. You can roll it up and pack it into a smaller area. I mean, they're really slick, really slick. In fact, I know a lot of guys who use them for duck hunting.
Yeah, like guys are just float whitewater rafting with them now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Yoko Pelly has like all these whitewater rafting guys. Just people are biking up the river, then floating down, getting them off the front of their handlebars and stuff like that. It's really making people versatile and be able to reach places in the backcountry that you never really thought, even for us, because we always like the Alpine lakes. Even if you don't even catch a fish out there, just to be out there and even see them, even if they're small or whatever. But now you can really like, all right, we know where the big boys are over there. You point, right? You point over at the rock shelf and you can never get there because you can't, there's no path or something like that. But now you're just floating over there and you're just looking around at all the scenery and like the clear water, and it's just really peaceful and therapeutic. 100%.
Okay. So that's beautiful. So cool, because you guys are really, I mean, changing it up. A pack raft changes that up significantly. Let's talk a little bit about what's in your pack raft. You said like I have my gear, etc., because it sounds like some of these lakes might be big enough to where you're like, dude, we're going to get out on the other side and we're going to follow, that outlet or whatever for a while and pack up, go to the next one and, do it again or whatever. But so you have to have your fly fishing stuff out. You have to have probably a dry bag with some protective gear in it, etc. And then you got to have an oar, right?
Yeah, you got to have your paddles, like a carbon fiber paddles or like oars that are anything to make you lighter. The more you can pack, like obviously film and fish to try to do both. So it's like a waterproof submersible bag. I usually only probably bring one rod. Like there's some rods out there now that are like 7 feet. You know what I mean? Like 6-piece rods where they're smaller and you can pack into them. Obviously you gotta pick your favorite flies because you don't want to bring too many fly boxes. Jet boils, food, water. You can bring some of those. I always use those pellets and stuff like that. Just keep it like simple. But
sorry, I missed you on that. The pellets. What do you mean by pellets?
Water pellets. That's so you can drink the water to keep.
Oh them, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Just iodine tablets and things like that.
The tablets and the water tablets to make sure that you don't. I
use the if you haven't checked them out, I use the Grail. Grayl Grail water bottles. It's a water bottle with a sleeve in it, and you just literally fill it and you press it.
Press it, yeah.
It's really functional.
I looked into those too.
Yeah, they're pretty sweet.
Badass.
So you got your bag packed. Now, when you're in the boat and you're fishing, you have pretty much everything packed away, cleaned up. Do you put that behind you more, and then your fly gear in front of you? How do you kind of manage your boat? Because they're tight. I mean, they're small.
Yeah. So
are you on your knees? I got a lot of questions.
Yeah. So basically, depending. If you already kind of know the lake or you want to explore the lake, what I do is once you actually get to the lake with your gear, I can't even go even lighter, right? Like I'll just bring my rod and maybe one camera or like a box of flies, and I'll kind of leave a bag on the bank, and then I'll kind of go out and do some exploring with my main things in order like to target like a trout or whatever. So I think you kind of shed some more weight when you get to the actual lake, so you can actually be more mobile, and also you can get on the banks as well to like, take a break. Cause you know what I mean? That you can get pretty sore just casting in your pack rafts all day. So like you said earlier, like an inflow or something like that, it's
Yeah.
definitely great to target those like the inflows and the outflows and stuff like that. There's always going to be fish there as well. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Very cool. Very cool. So, it's you and your brother. I mean, you guys are only what, a year or two apart.
Yeah, it's
And is
just
it
me and
is it primarily the two of you, or do you have some other buddies that go with you?
oh yeah, like for when we go fishing, there's like those little couple of us rugrats for sure. There's we got a whole group of us. It kind of changes depending on whoever has time to get out with us. But Mike and I always get together and we always plan. Always kind of that we have like this like route that we do every year, kind of one of our favorite places, and we always make time to book off some time for us to get some quality time together and go out there and test products and do some filming. Like that's the fun part of doing this, right? Is filming our adventures to share them with people to get them outdoors. Like that's one of
Yeah.
the main reasons why we do it, and also obviously build gear to make people more versatile out in the
Yeah.
wild. So we're always out booking trips together. Like I said, mostly alpine lakes and stuff like that
Yeah.
now. So
And I love how you just kind of hit it, but I know we don't talk a ton of product on here, but I love how you Backcountry Skins came alive because it was a necessity of what you guys were doing. Like, hey, this
yeah,
stuff doesn't exist.
yeah.
And to me, that's like where the ultimate designs come from. They
Hmm.
just, they're
People that
basic
are like,
and they
something's
like
missing.
super fill a need, like it's really cool. Really
Yeah,
cool. So tell
yeah.
us about this trip. I know you had some stories from the backcountry, so I want to hear a couple stories from the backcountry on what you guys have gone through and how you've enjoyed it
Yeah,
or
we had
hated
one.
it.
Yeah, we had one. It's crazy because it can be unpredictable a lot of the time, right? Depending on the winter. So we had a trip about, I don't know, I think it was about 2 years ago, and we had this crazy snowfall. Like I think it was like record snowfall, snowpack. And the time we usually go when we plan it, it's usually always been good because the snow melt's already been melted and everything like that.
Ah,
But we went. I think it was like 5,000 or 6,000 feet up in the Alpine, up like this trail that was just like we have all our gear. This is when we had paddle boards when we didn't even have pack rafts, and we're climbing up this hill, and every 5 minutes we're just like taking a break, like huffing and puffing, and like just so tired, and like it just felt like we were never gonna get there. And by the time we got to the top of the lake, the snowpack was like we got to the top, like to the edge of the lake. We still had like I think like 3 kilometers to go, and through the trees, and the snowpack was like I don't know, probably to my hips, but it was still warm out, so it was like really
oh,
soft snow, right? So we have
yeah,
these pack rafts on. We're
yeah.
probably carrying an extra I don't know like 60 pounds, so we're just falling through the snow like to our hips, and like we're like there's no way we're not making it there after all this work
Yeah, we're so close, right?
booking off time, like we're making it right, and so we're just following in like nipple deep into the snow with our pack rafts on, and like it just feels so dangerous in a sense too because you don't know what's underneath the snow. There's like
Right, right.
sticks, there's like deep like sticks your ankles, and we're like dodging stuff. We're already beat just from even like the climb. So we just kept trekking, and we're like seeing all these like also like bear tracks, like massive grizzly bear tracks too. And we're just like so you feel so vulnerable out there in the mountains when you're like can't even move. Like if a bear
Right,
even
right,
came,
right.
it's like you're just basically like a kebab in the snow sitting there for them. You know what I mean? So like
uh,
yeah, so it was a crazy trip. We actually ended up making it there. Like it was worth it. Cracked our beers usually, which we have after we're done fishing because we were just so beat. We're like, we deserve one of these right
yeah.
now. Just cracked one of those and finally made it out to the lake, and we started paddling across. It was like dead butter glass, like just glass. Like you could just, it's like, I don't know, it's out of like
Perfect reflections. Yeah.
like perfect reflections of the mountains, like blue crystal water. And we were actually targeting Yellowstone cutthroat trout,
Okay.
which is like, they're beautiful fish, like yellow, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's one of the only places around us that had them. So we really wanted to make it there. And we got across to the lake. We deciphered the river quite a bit, or the lake, the banks and stuff. And we finally found them. like in the structure where there's like a bunch of logs built up. They were coming out, taking our little streamers, and we would strip
Okay.
in that. We would actually strip in balanced leeches. It was actually very effective as well, rather than nymphing them. Sometimes that's another great tip. Is we strip in balanced leeches. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
they work. It's really effective.
Do
But
you
we
do
got
like
over there.
a rolling crawl on those leeches, or
Yeah,
you stripping them faster, or you
I'm
changing it up?
just little ticks, little
Yeah.
ticks here and there, and then quick ones, making them look super vulnerable and injured. Um, but yeah, it really does work. It worked for us, and we got across that lake, and it was like one of the most epic times we've ever had. We were like, just
Hmm.
every cast, just hitting them and cheersing each other, and like it was just like one of those like crazy stories, because we've been to this lake before, and like the fishing just, we weren't really that good at it, or like I don't know, they weren't biting, or
Yeah. Yeah.
pressure systems, or moon, all these, you can get into it, the technicality of it, but yeah, it really was. It was just like one for the books, and I filmed actually some of it on my YouTube of that trip actually,
That's
and
killer.
it was so badass. It's still imprinted in my mind for forever. But on the way back down, we usually go 2 days, I think, and we go do that hike, go back up, and then we set up camp at the bottom. We only did it the one day because it was like the snow was so deep, man.
So
We were
deep.
so
So deep.
beat, so beat, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
but
that stripping method's awesome, dude.
yeah,
I'm the same
it
way. Even
works.
if I'm under an indicator, a lot of
Yeah,
times I'll strip in
yeah,
between, and that's when you'll get your takes. The other
mhm,
one I found, and a buddy taught me this, was stripping midges. I don't know
yeah.
if you ever strip midges, but
I know.
we would throw dry fly midges,
Yeah,
whether they were cripples or full done style. We would toss them out, and he's like, "Yeah, it's when those sporadic hits are coming, but it's
yeah.
just not predictable." And he's like, "Oh, dude, let's go strip some midges." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever, dude." I was like, "Okay," and I thought like, "Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like, yeah, this guy.
dude, it
There's
is
no way
like
this is gonna
it's
work.
like it's like streamer fishing. You're like just super slow stripping, and all of a sudden, wham! You're like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god!" It's
Sometimes.
really cool, really cool.
Yeah, that's crazy that you've experienced that as well. Like you just try weird things when you're out there because you only have like limited flies, and you're like, I got to figure out something here because
Right, right,
you
right.
know what I mean. Like you try, so even stripping in things, even sometimes we would put them on underneath an indicator and just kind of jerk it a bit. You
Yeah,
know what I
yep.
mean, and like jig it or whatever, and it'll just trigger the fish that's mine to go eat it. So,
Yeah, I don't know what
but
it
it's
is, if
it's
it's
very
the
effective.
movement
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
the lateral line or whatever, but like you had
Yeah.
said, I wanted to appear injured.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It really works out well. That's cool. That's cool. So you got that trip. That was you and your brother, and the annual trip. But there's got to be some other trips that you've had with friends where you've done some real backcountry exploring where you're like, oh, we have no idea where we're going, drop the pin, and just start hiking. But I want to talk about that, but also want to talk about like some of your preparation, because you had mentioned to me before, like, yeah, dude, we look a lot of fish reports and things like that for stocking, etc. And that's kind of how we set it up to pick those pins.
Yeah. So I get lots of messages actually for a lot of I'm into like helping anglers now, and getting people into fly fishing and getting the connection that we get, you know what I mean? Because it's really therapeutic and awesome. So if you're coming out west, a great thing you can look up on Amazon is there's a book, Joey Ambrose wrote it. It's this guy who basically went to all the alpine lakes, and he just kind of like his fishing diary in a sense, and there's just tons of lakes like from all over the Alberta Rockies and British Columbia Rockies. So basically, it tells you what's in the lakes, what to what I mean, what sizes he's caught, and kind of gives you a whole you know round like details of. So what Mike and I do is we would actually use this as our diary, and then we're like, hey, let's go try this lake this year. You know what I mean,
Yeah,
and then we
and
kind of go,
you could do
yeah, and then we
research in between there too, right? Like you're
yeah,
like,
so
oh,
and then
he
you
was
go on all.
catching 18-inch fish, and they were, tigers, and tigers only last so many years or whatever it is,
Yeah, it's
and
all
you're like,
deep.
so they should be at full growth this year or in the
Yeah,
next
yeah,
couple of years, right?
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
so you get exactly. So you kind of pick a species that you really like. If it's brook trout or cutthroat trout or even bull trout, even there's some rivers in there as well. But I highly recommend it to someone to. It's a great read. It's a big book. There's lots of lakes. there's lots of exploring to do there. You know what I mean? It's kind of a secret a little bit among some of the locals, but it's great because you can go on there and then you can map everything out now with technology. What there is with Fat Maps, 3D maps, and then all trails. Most of the time when you type it in, the lake, people are just hiking those lakes just for hikers, like taking pictures, but people don't even know there's fish in there now. So it's a really good, great diary kind of, and that's kind of how we go about, trying to find cool, unique places that that are like new to us to try and target, like special like brook trout or bull trout or cutthroat trout and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a great handy thing for people to do, because I get lots of messages about like, hey, can you help me with this, or where do you guys go and stuff like that. And like that's really a good place to start, and it is to do your research. And there's lots of stuff on Google online as well, like so you can like research and stuff like that. But do your research, and a lot of the time, sometimes you don't get rewarded. You know what I mean? But a lot of the times, if you do your research and you go in, if you go enough, you're going to get rewarded.
Yeah. Yeah, and the rewards are different, right? You don't get
Yeah.
rewarded with maybe fish, but
Yeah,
you've
but
been to some
still,
awesome places, dude. Fish don't
yeah,
live in
like
bad
even if you
places
go for,
most of the in the
yeah,
backcountry,
yeah, like I always say, it's not always like the fishing. The fishing, everyone always wants to catch a fish, you know what I mean? But a lot of the time, it's sometimes just a nice place to let loose with all the the distractions
Right.
these days with technology, and just if you have a chance, even at one, you're
Yeah.
going to talk about it with your friends. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
it's kind of like hiking through a lake nipple deep in snow with your brother and then cracking a beer. I mean, it's
yeah,
like you'll
yeah,
never forget that, right? I
yeah,
mean, never
never,
forget that. It's
yeah,
like probably one of the best
yeah.
moments of your life. So
It
it's
was,
super, super
man.
cool. Super
Yeah, it was
cool.
awesome. But yeah, we've been on a lot of bull trout trips, um, like when we were a little bit younger, like in interior BC, like Revelstoke and Golden and stuff like that. Every year we go, kind of like you gotta kind of like really study their migration, what they do, where they're at, what time of year, and that can also change with like water levels as well.
Mm-hmm.
When they go up into some of the tributaries, when they're pre-spawn, like when they're still trying to make their way up, when it's completely safe to do so. Um, there's lots of places you can also read about kind of where they go, and what time of year to target them when they go up into some of these tributaries where they're easier to target. And you catch them on like big 12-inch streamers. Usually I run, or are we saving the rod tip thing for the end? Is that what we did? I forgot. Are we doing?
We're gonna do how to fish and film.
What's
So
that?
go
Are we
ahead.
doing
Yeah,
fish and
we're gonna
film?
do
All
fish
right.
and film.
So,
So
all right.
drop the rod tip, and
All right.
we
Yeah.
can talk about the fly selections for bulls. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So, for bull trout, I like to carry 2 rods. Like a lot of the streamers that are like, some of them now, actually a lot of the fly shops will carry them if you don't tie. They're getting bigger streamers. Before, back when I first started doing it, they only really had sex dungeons, like 6-inch streamers,
Right.
to go buy to target fish. But we started actually buying like pike streamers and just trying crazy stuff that were like 12-inch streamers, like big white dolly llamas and stuff like that. We tie them. We make our own like custom ones. But 12-inch streamers. So I like a rod with like a weighted line, or you can even use like in certain places like lead weights if you don't have the weighted line. Some people don't like it or call it maybe cheating or whatever, but you can run like lead weights, like about like 5 or 6 inches from your 12-inch streamer, because a lot of, even some of the weighted line now, actually, if the water's really fast, you know what I mean? A lot of these tributaries,
Can't get down fast enough.
you still can't get down in the strike zone, and bulls are always deep, right?
Right.
So you can use just using weight or weighted line or weight, and a 12-inch streamer. And then I also like having a nymph rod with a balanced leech, weighted with weights on it as well, in between a pink worm, something simple, with like a weighted like a stabilized leech. Actually, I still even use for that, and that's just killer. You switch it up. Usually I nymph the hole, beforehand. I nymph the hole. And then I call it the big sweeper. Then we throw in a big
sweeper, right?
Yeah, big broom in there. See if there's anything big in there. Kind of.
Here's a tip for you, man. And I've talked about this before, but let's see if you can see that. See that? Take some tungsten cones.
Yeah. Those
instead of the lead, you can put it on and dude, they can go crazy deep.
Is there bigger ones though, even than that?
Yeah, bigger than that for sure. I just happen to have these laying here. But you throw some
But yeah,
big cones on there. I usually take, like a handful selection of bigger to smaller. And then, like you said, you're fishing a streamer, so you're usually on some shorter tippet, but you can snip away at it and retie it real easy. You just throw one on, dude, and done.
yeah,
That,
like those work too. Like, some of this water, like you obviously, I don't know. I've never been to Idaho for bulls, but yeah, like the water's really fast. But that hole that where that water's
oh yeah,
pouring, they're in there, right? So the bigger the weight, the sometimes you gotta just like toss it in there or whatever. But those, I like that concept better. It looks better, and it's more, yeah,
it's
friendly.
just a little easier for me to tie because then if I put on weight, because I used to use weight,
Yeah,
and what I find is like, okay, now I don't want the weight.
yeah,
Then my leader's all banged up,
yeah. Everything's
or I'm trying to get the lead off, and it just becomes a pain in the butt. And so then what I started doing is I would tie my fly on with like a Rapala knot, and I'd leave a long tag. And I
yeah,
put the weight on the long tag,
yeah,
and that
yeah.
worked. But then it would slide off. It's just
Slide
like,
off.
yeah, you'd have
Yeah,
to pinch the end of the tag with your pliers so that the weight would stay. It's like you have all these tricks, but that, it just seems to work really good for me. It's one that I really enjoy.
you can actually, if you tie, right? Like obviously I'm talking for, anglers that don't tie, but you can even tie them with lead now. Like my one buddy Ty, he just lives on the vise, and like he ties me up streamers. Like I don't really tie too much anymore because I don't have the time, but I always go with my friend Ty or Bear Flyco, and I usually hit them up and they build them with like these massive weights on like
Oh
little,
yeah,
you know what I mean, with like the articulated streamers, and they're just, so I don't even need to actually, add weight.
yeah, yeah,
You have sinking line and then like a streamer with weighted that's has a bunch of like some lead on it or whatever.
yeah.
It's so effective. Like I definitely recommend
Yeah, my
doing
buddy
that.
ties them with pencil lead.
Yeah, like he
The
uses
pencil lead, he just unrolls
the
it,
pencil
ties it
lead or
into
the wire.
place. Yeah,
Yeah, the lead wire. The lead
yeah.
wire. They wrap it around the tail. It's genius. It's they're getting so creative now. It's I love it. It's
The hard
phenomenal.
part is casting them.
Yeah,
But
you just kind of like
for
lob it in.
me,
Yeah,
it's a lob cast very much
yeah,
because
yeah. I just swing
what
it.
you can get into trouble is trying to do an overhand cast and you hit
Yeah,
your rod tip, you
yeah.
break
Then
your rod tip,
you're broke. Yeah, it
and
happens to
then
me.
in the backcountry, and you're like,
Yeah,
you do what I do, which is, oh, I broke my rod tip. Hopefully, you only broke the first two eyelets. So then I just take my pliers and I snip as close as I can, get the last eyelet, and I got a shorter rod.
yeah.
That's it.
How many times have we all done that? Hey,
Yeah,
just
that's right.
the rod, like, did I make it to that perfect loop so it's saved and you can just
Yeah,
still
right. You're just
cast,
like, I'll
right?
just
Yeah,
snip it, man.
yeah.
We'll worry about this later. I'm
We'll
catching
worry
some
about
fish.
it later. I'll call the warranty team later.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
100%.
Cool. Cool. And you were saying do you like one of my flies that I fish for bull trout primarily is I fish a deceiver, and then I fish
That's
dolly
good.
llamas.
Dolly
Fish dolly
llamas are
llamas.
yeah, we just make them like on steroids, basically. We make them like 10, 12 inches Dolly
Yeah.
llamas. We do
And
it
I'm
like,
like white,
yeah,
black, and all of like those
you
are my
got it.
threes. If I have
Yeah,
those, I'm like feeling super solid. What's great about it is like I can go on a trip and I can carry a really small bit of flies and fly boxes.
yeah.
Like that, I don't have to take a bunch of junk.
There's such an aggressive fish, right? A lot of it's more about profile than it is actual, like, you know what I mean? Like other fish, right? There's such a predatorial, if it's bull trout, it's such a predatorial fish. So I always find that profile is like the most main thing for me. With my experience up here in the north for fishing. So but yeah, like another one, like those colors of the top, which you just mentioned 100%. Another unique one is blue. It's been working with white
Yeah.
lately, which is crazy to me, but
Yeah.
yeah,
That's like black and purple. You're like,
yeah, yeah,
black and
yeah,
purple. Like,
yeah,
why is that such a killer fly? It
yeah,
doesn't matter where you use it, it seems to work, man. It's so
yeah.
awesome.
Like and a wiggle tail is awesome too. Like
Yeah, yeah,
those game changers, like with some weight in them, like the game changer
yeah.
streamers, like those are just lethal. Like out for bull trout too, just a little bait fish with
Yeah,
the weight.
so much action in them.
There's so much action, and they just look so vulnerable, like a cutty injured. So it's
Yeah,
those are another one that we should definitely mention.
yeah. That's really cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Well, let's do this. Let's dive into, the film and fish side of like, I want to go on a trip. I want to catch some film, but I really want to fish. but I want to walk away with something. It's like this,
Yeah.
and then,
You know the battle. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's so hard, man. I mean, and when you're on a boat and fishing in the saltwater or something, it's like easy because guys up on the deck and you're like, I'll just flip around with the camera. But when you're fishing, it's not easy, especially in the backcountry. I got to carry it up there. I got to make sure it's
Yeah.
dry, blah, blah, all those things. So jump in there, Kelly.
Yeah, like, as building a brand, you obviously have to, get people to see it visually. And part of that is obviously filming, to make, get people to see what you're selling and show your adventures, to share them with people, to get them amped up. So, it's been a battle for me because I love fishing so much, and I actually took it upon myself to sacrifice that a little bit in order to build this brand. And I go and film my friends, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm still gonna fish. You know what I mean? The feeling. You're like, I still want to catch fish, and so I've always done kind of like a run and gun method, of fishing. But so in order for me to be able to fish and film, I always like to have obviously a waterproof submersible bag, for your camera gear. But the trick for me is I like to have the rod holder. I set up the rod on my backpack so it's set up like a streamer or something like that. And then I bought a chest mount off like Amazon or something like that, which has a pivot that goes onto your Sony, and it goes onto like my chest strap. So if you're ballsy enough, in a sense, so I'll have that kind of on my chest because, just like me, like when you go out there and right when you put your camera away, or like you put it away in your backpack,
something happens, right?
Oh, right away you've been waiting all morning, and then because fishing's such an unpredictable and such a hard thing to film, you know what I mean? Like the nature doesn't really care about your camera gear, your Instagram, or
Right.
stuff like that. You know what I mean? So they have a mind of their own, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I think having your camera, if you want like a cinematic camera, like I have a Sony, I like to put that on my chest strap with my backpack on the back, and like I kind of fish depending where I am. If I'm floating, I'll probably not do that just because it's kind of sketchy in a sense. But GoPros are obviously waterproof, so even having that on your chest strap as well. But yeah, it's like a little thing that screws into the bottom of your Sony or your body of your camera, and then it's a chest harness, and you can slide it into your chest, and then you got your backpack on. You're like, all right, man, like nothing's going on today.
Is it like a quick connect on your chest?
Yeah, it's just like it just slides in. It's a quick connect, right? They're on Amazon. I think they're like $30 or like $20 or something like that. I went and picked one of them up, and it's been like a game changer for me to be able to still enjoy both, because that's what it's still really obviously about. So but yeah, that's kind of like my setup. And like obviously you got to bring a lot of batteries to keep your stuff charged up. Sometimes you leave your cameras on and you forget, or you're recording, and some extra memory cards and stuff like that. So but yeah, I think that's the way I kind of go about it.
When you're out there, you mentioned the battery scenario, you go out 3-4 days. Do you also take like a little mini kind of solar roll up or anything like that?
I've never tried that. You try that? Or
yeah, I've done that. It's really handy on a boat. You can take a bigger one, right? Because it just sits on the boat all day and whatever. But there's some nice ones out there now that are roll ups, or like I use this company here. Let's see. They make a power pack like this.
That's badass. You'll have to send me that up.
So they make a power pack. It's all waterproof. They got all the connections. There's 2 of them. And then they have a little solar panel. And the solar panel is, it's small, man. It's like a small little notebook like this big. That's it. But it folds out.
Yeah.
And then some of them have roll-ups. There's a company that has a roll-up, and I can try and include these in the notes. But, man, it's surprising. Like you don't normally charge a battery, but you like fully, but you'll get, like you said, I'm out on my boat, my bag's on the bank. Well, I have 2 batteries.
Yeah.
The one that's a spare, I'm just going to have plugged in, and it's going to put a half charge on it.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And so it can get you another couple days of stuff,
Yeah. Because
so it works out pretty well.
Yeah, because the sun's not. Yeah, like that's genius. That's awesome.
Yeah. The other one is I started using it when I was climbing, because we were doing. This was back in the day when it was like you really had to be creative, and we would do stuff like we would put our batteries in our backpack and everything, and you'd have the solar panels just sitting on the top while you were hiking in, right? and it would
Cool.
charge like crazy. So I
Interesting.
think they're pretty interesting for sure. I
Hmm.
think, but I love how you got it readily available on your chest, because
Yeah.
I've struggled with that. I've looked at some of those connector things and I'm like, oh, should I do that? But I've kind of worried. What I ended up with was it's like a soft sock that's like a dry bag. It's like a
Hmm.
roll top dry bag,
Yeah, yeah.
and I can
It comes with
connect it.
that. Yeah,
Okay, so I can
it
connect
comes with
mine,
that. Yeah,
kind of. It like
yeah,
is real janky how it
yeah.
hooks on and everything. But I'll tell you, this was a funny, not a funny, but funny example. I was in Alaska and I had full waders on, and I would put the sock in my front of my wader and I would put the camera in it, right? Because, be raining or whatever.
Hmm.
And man, we hiked across this like little inlet, and it was kind of deep. And so I was like holding my waders up, right? It wasn't raining out.
Scary.
And I
Scary.
was like just like barely getting across, right?
Yeah,
Well, then it started raining. So I put my rain jacket over my waders
yeah.
and over my camera in my bag. And then I hiked back, and I didn't even think about it because my jacket was there and I couldn't feel water going. And well, the reason I couldn't feel water going is it
Oh,
all poured into my little soft pack into my camera. So it was like sitting in there as I'm like hiking home.
oh,
I
we've
get
all.
back to the plane, and I'm like, you gotta
No.
be kidding me. Like brand new lens, brand, older DSLR, but nice camera. And I'm just thinking, everything's gone, man. Everything's gone. So I like whipped the card out real quick and like
Did you
everything
savor
else.
it or what? Was it
The
done?
card saved, but the camera and
Oh, that's
lens were
pooched.
toast. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I figured that, man.
yeah.
Everyone has a story that's
It
filmed
was
like you
just
and me. Yeah, yeah. Like how
total crippler, man. Total crippler.
it
Yeah, it
really
was
puts a
hard.
dampener on things, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Yeah.
You're just like, oh, what am I doing out here with this thing?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll add on to your tip, right? Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Two things. Sony, I know Sony has a warranty. It doesn't matter what you do to the
Mhm.
camera. A lot of places you buy it. I mean, your sister could throw it down the stairs or something, like it gets replaced. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you can also go buy a supplemental insurance for your homeowners association or insurance in the U.S. I don't know how it is in Canada. But in the
Mhm.
U.S., you can go buy a supplemental homeowners insurance, and you give them the serial number and identity of the camera, etc. And you have like this super low deductible, and it's like $160 a year, but they'll replace it no matter what, and it doesn't hit your like homeowners insurance as like a ding, right?
Gotcha.
So it's
Cool.
really cool.
That's Sony. You got it. You got to protect the stuff with all the how expensive everything is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Sony's good, man. That's what I run. I run Sony's as well. So
yeah.
can't go
And the
wrong.
glory is these days, 99% of the people, honestly, they can take their iPhone.
Yeah.
I mean, the iPhone cameras are awesome. It's like incredible what you can take on them.
Yeah.
And especially if you get, there's a lot of iPhone photo people. They just click, 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 click. But literally take a Saturday where you were going to tie flies. Instead of tying flies in the winter, do a little bit of research on how to manually shoot with your iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, is it a game changer on what you can shoot with? It's absolutely incredible, both video and still pictures. And man, you can just become like the family expert in a weekend, of shooting with that camera. It's really cool.
Well, the new one even comes with, you can shoot, and I think it's like S-Log or RAW. So if you're like an actual, film guy and you want a color grade, now they even have that. Like I just got this like DJI Osmo 2.
Yeah.
It's not waterproof, but this thing is like so powerful. I brought it into Belize with me, and like it's just the footage is insane on this.
Yeah.
And it shoots in RAW and has a 1-inch sensor on it. And it's just like this little thing, and it's like it feels like I'm on a little Sony on a gimbal, man.
Right.
The cameras are coming out are making it easier for us.
Oh yeah.
The
only problem is you're like, yeah, I got the new GoPro 7. It's sick, and then like it feels like 2 weeks later you're like, they're on GoPro 13. Like what happened?
You want to
fall asleep?
you hit it on the dot, man. You don't really need like, you know what I mean? Like even me, I got that Osmo because I'm like the big gear and stuff it really can put a damper on a trip, man. And having like these like small, like your iPhone, like you said, if you're a creative enough person and you know a little bit of some of the basic stuff, you can really take it. You don't need the expensive stuff, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
you don't. In the reality is the majority of the stuff that we're shooting, people they look at it on their phone,
That's it. It's just
right?
vertical. Yeah.
So it's just a little tiny screen, etc. But
Yeah.
um, it's cool. I love the technology. I love fly fishing. I love the mixture of the two and
All of it. Yeah.
capturing the
Right?
elements. And
Yeah.
for me, photography is a lot like fly fishing because there's a ton of little elements that you can play with, and you just don't know until you kind of try it stuff. So, hey
Yeah.
guys, take a tip from Kelly and I. Go try some photography on your fly fishing trip. Bring some
Yeah.
pictures back. You don't have to
Yeah.
lie anymore about that 18-incher being really only like a
I
16.
forgot my phone, man. It was like 40 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Kelly, great having you on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Really appreciate the tips on all the backcountry stuff. Of course, I'm super stoked for you. Really am to see you guys, you and your brother. I remember 2 years ago talking to you guys and reaching out and be like, these things are really cool. Like, what are you guys doing? We
Yeah.
chatted and we got on the phone, and I think it was like supposed to be a 15-minute conversation. We talked for like an hour and a half, and
Yeah.
we finally got together. But long story short, everyone, go check out backcountryskins.com. That's backcountryskins with a Z. They got tons of great stuff, man. These guys are super cool. They're just like you and I were as kids, but they're like getting after it and hanging in there with some really cool stuff. So backcountryskins.com. Appreciate you, Kelly. We'll see you guys next week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Fly Fishing Insider Podcast is teamed up with Fly Fish Finder app to revolutionize your fishing adventures. Save time and unlock the ultimate experience with access to 55,000 trout streams, precise bridge data, thousands of trails, and detailed species locations. Elevate your angling with real-time maps, top camping spots, and connect with local fly shops for expert tips. This is only a little bit of what is available on the app. Discover all of it on the Fly Fish Finder app, another tool for getting better at catching fish anytime, anywhere, and for any species.